Welcome back to You Must Be Woken, the podcast where we have honest and sometimes tough conversations on the topic of inclusion, leadership, and culture.
And today we introduce the last in what's been our fabulous International Women's Day mini-series, Give to Gain. We've explored the multiplier effect that happens when leaders invest their power and resources and the fine print that comes with it.
Yeah, and today we're closing the series by looking at impact and staying power. What does it take to build leadership style that lasts? And how do you ensure the game was worth the investment of your career?
And over the series, we've been talking to leaders who navigated these trade-offs and found growth on the other side. And I'm delighted to welcome today Lesley Brodie, who's the Vice President at DHL. Welcome.
Thank you, Dawn. Good morning.
It's good to see you. And before we get into the really messy stuff, we have a Woking tradition here for this series, which is your 60-second CV. So you've got a minute to tell us who you are, what you do, the high gloss version. Over to you.
Wow.
No pressure.
Yeah, I know, high gloss. There's a big expectation there. So I actually fell into logistics and supply chain over 30 years ago. It sounds a long time. And actually, I'm not being explicit about the number of years because I did count them last night and it was horrifying. I fell into a company called Scottish Express International. And that really played into my proud heritage of being born in Edinburgh and everything's Scottish. So there you go. That was a nice, easy set. That organisation brought me into an international working way that we could not have imagined. I didn't have any idea what international forwarding was. The gentleman that hired me said this is like working in a travel agency. And instead of putting people away all over holidays, we actually put things around the world. So everything that you eat, everything that you do, everything you build, everything you see comes from somewhere in the world. And that's how we fell into that world all these years ago. I've now been with DHL Supply Chain for 9 months. My focus here is on business development, account development, and that's in our consumer and convenience section, which is really interesting because it impacts every single person's day life. Prior to that, though, I was with another global logistics company. That was Kuehne + Nagel, and that was for over 20 years. That's where you and I met, Dawn, obviously, at the start. And that was a game of two halves. There was the first 10 years when I worked in a global role for the global organization. I was really lucky to look after Apple just before they started to manufacture the iPhone. So a really interesting 10 period looking after them. And then that was already around air freight, sea freight, road, and also warehousing solutions for them globally. So I traveled a lot. I got to work in a lot of really very interesting, very mundane, weird warehouses around the world, but I met some amazing people. And then in KN, I was invited to join the UK board responsible for sales and marketing. And that was a point where I changed from my influencing skills to direct leadership skills with a direct team. So that was across all of our sales channels in all of our business sectors as well. So vastly different roles, but actually, yeah, I guess 2 very different worlds, but 2 most fantastic worlds.
Wow. And you managed that in 60 seconds as well. Brilliant.
Wow. So nobody will believe that.
That's the high gloss version of your CV that Dawn asked for. So how would that change if you were meeting Dawn and I after a rubbish Tuesday for a glass of wine at 7 p.m. and we asked you the same question? What would change in your description?
Didn't we do that recently, Lesley?
I was just about to say, but we were both not drinking that evening, so it was a different story. I guess, firstly, Craig, it would depend if I'd had a glass of wine or two before you came, so that maybe depends on the depth of the story that you would get. But genuinely, I think what would be important to me is to tell you that I was promoted into my first sales management role in my mid to late 20s. Right job, wrong time. Absolutely wrong thing. And actually that learning and stepping back from that and going back into being an individual contributor and doing that account management role myself globally, that's put me back in my happy place. So I, at least not realizing at the time because you didn't talk about self-awareness, but I at least then realized that that first sales management role was not for me.
Nice.
However, I think there's a part where authenticity is a big buzzword these days. Everybody talks about it. And I guess what has taken me a long time to realize And I'd like to say it just comes with old age, but that's a terrible thing to confess. But what you learn over the years with wisdom and experience, put it that way, is that actually you just want to be true to yourself and you just want to be your regular self every day. So doing that, however, can take out a lot of energy because you put so much energy into other people. And it might be all very nice, people saying to you, yep, you have a high level of empathy, but actually that overwhelming feeling of empathy that you have in looking out for others and trying to care for others can take a lot from yourself. And you have to realize at that certain point where that energy you're expending on others is at a cost to yourself.
Nice.
So, I love that.
Yeah, I was there. It took a particularly tough working scenario to make me realize that I needed to re-find myself, if there is such a word. And that came through. I was really lucky because we were using an exec coach for one of my own team. And to go through that team and work through that whole strengths and leadership and understanding what made me. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever done anything with Gallup strengths, it used to be called Clifton strengths. And this lady walked me through all of my strengths. And then she said, so I've just looked at this piece of paper and it's got 5 key strengths. And I'm going to tell you who you are. And she expressed me to the point I was in tears at the end of it thinking, oh my God, that sounds like a really good person. That's not bad. And then you realize that actually it is you. So yeah, regrounding myself, refinding myself. But wow, I don't think you want to go through what I went through to get there.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
That's one. Sorry, Dawn, carry on.
No, I was just thanking Lesley for sharing that story because it's. I think we should talk more openly about those things because that's the reality, isn't it?
Yeah, that authenticity. You're right. It is. It does feel like a big buzzword, but I think there's an element of truth in what you were saying in terms of age or wisdom or experience that allows you to truly ground yourself in your own authentic self, right? And it must be exhausting to try and be somebody else all the time or try and be what the world needs you to be all the time instead of just being yourself, right? And I always think about the amount of energy that gets wasted on stuff like that could be redirected into the job or redirected into your friends, your family, you just think, wow, what an exhausting amount of energy that people must waste trying to be something that they're not or can't be or whatever that looks like. Oh. And timing is a big one. Your timing bit was a really valid point, right?
Yeah, and I think it's also about understanding that when you have a strength, when you overplay it, what happens? And that's exactly what you're saying there, Craig. It is the wasted or misdirected energy, because you're still trying to help others, but that misdirected energy that if you had just had that line of sight clearer and the clarity of mind, then you potentially would have made other decisions.
Exactly that. Exactly. And it's a seamless link almost into talking about then versus now, because looking back to when you first stepped into a boardroom, what was the price women were expected to pay just to be in the room? And as we sit here in 2026, what's the biggest change you've seen and what we have to give up?
Well, it's funny because I didn't say it, but I was the first female board member that the Kuehne Nagel organization had in the UK. And this is a very Swiss-German organization filled with certain individuals of a certain profile. You've met a lot of them, Dawn, so you know exactly where I'm coming from here. And the amazing thing is that was there a price expected of me at that time? I would say probably my price came from my prior role, which was doing the international travel and having to work with a lot of senior leaders across the world. And if there was a price there, it was about being the coordinator, the orchestrator of everything of a global organization to come and stand up in front of a really strong company like Apple. And I would be the only female. I would have all my senior gents around me and I would say, okay, you only speak if I point to you and say your name. You are literally here at my control. And I would literally sit in the meeting room and it was the funniest thing. And you can imagine the picture. You've got all the Apple guys and gals and they're all sitting in their shorts and t-shirts and flip-flops. And I've brought in the guys and the guys and myself from Switzerland or Germany, all dressed up in suits, being told to take off their ties to at least make it look like they're more comfortable. So that price there at that point, I think at that place that you are, you have to recognize that actually being a female in that situation really was beneficial, because I got away with murder, because I don't think they would have taken that kind of cheekiness from another gentleman. Okay. So on that side, I think that was probably one where I thought there was they had an expectation that was not where I was. When I went into the boardroom, however, there was a price that you paid there because you lost yourself from a lot of your people that had been your peers and friends. And that is a price, I think, that is for any either sex going into the role. You have to find a way to make that work. You have to find a way, still by being really true to yourself, that they understand you're just doing a different job. You've just stepped into a different role. It's not that you're changing who you are as a human. And I think that's the part that came as a big surprise, actually, was how much support I got from all the females in the business. I was mortified. They were cheering and going, wow, we got a girl at last. And I thought, jeepers, didn't think about it that way, you know. But yeah, so I'm not so sure that the price was expected of me when I walked into the boardroom. I think it's definitely different where we are now. And yeah, it's maybe going a little bit too far the other way because now we're trying to get the balance. Now we're trying to get the numbers right. Now everybody talks about having, let's not get in a quota conversation, but do we have the representation fair? And that story, that's then when I think it sort of demeans what I did, because I got there just because I was me.
Exactly. Exactly.
Love
Skill
that.
and merit.
It's a topic close to Dawn and my heart. So we have this debate regularly with lots of different people. So I think we're all on the same page when it comes to that one.
Absolutely.
Given that this year's theme for International Women's Day then is around this give to gain scenario, tell us a time where perhaps you were given a seat that you weren't ready for. I know we've explored that a little bit already, or a time when you've kind of pulled the chair out for somebody else. What I'm particularly interested in is the breakthrough that happens as a result of that kind of give to gain experience, either for yourself or for somebody else. What's the kind of breakthrough moment that you kind of realize, okay, that was good, that was important?
Yeah, I guess it does tie back in a little bit, Craig, to what we talked about, and the realization of where you are on your own journey. So when I took up that last role in the board, I didn't I didn't say it was about what I had to give or anything. It was about, did I really want to do it? And I had that struggle in my mind saying, did I want to put myself back into a little box that said I had a role at a certain level? I had a fear about it being too much admin, that I wouldn't get out there in front of customers. And I was so hung up on not getting out there in front of customers enough that I actually failed to realize the best part of what that role brought me was the fact that I dealt with humans in the flesh. So I was no longer working in that global virtual world where you were on your 5 a.m. calls, your 10 p.m. calls with California. You were in an environment where you had people that became something and it became a part of you. And actually then my strengths that would have been in these persuasive powers, or not, depending on your perspective, but on these powers that I had to influence and work with people remotely, that I could actually bring that virtual learning into the real world learning. And I look at COVID actually, and I think there's so many people that have so many terrible experiences. So I don't mean to say that COVID was super, but it was a realization for us that when I went into that role of standing in front of our 120 salespeople and saying, okay, we're going to connect every other day, and it's about me looking after you and making sure that I'm watching in the background, checking out that everything's still okay, using my spidey senses, connecting with souls one-to-one, and actually really creating, and Dawn, we talked about, it's not about the tribal element, but we created a sales tribe, and we created an environment where it was about us protecting ourselves and having a really safe place where, and of course it was really nice because of course we had people on furlough, so we couldn't talk about work. We had to create real life personal top topics that every day I was sitting thinking, okay, what's about today? But it was really connecting with souls. We had so many tears, we had so many laughs, but that brave heart feeling of banging my chest coming out of these calls, it was the most exhilarating feeling I think I've ever had in my whole life. And you just don't know that you've got it in you until you put yourself into that different position. It was both surprising to me and to everybody else. But when we came out of COVID and when we came back into being able to be back in the workplace, the strength of our team, people were envious. People in other teams were envious. And actually, unfortunately, that envy doesn't always play out in nice behavior, but they were envious. They wanted to be part of our gang.
Yeah. So powerful.
Wow.
So powerful. I
Lovely
remember that
story.
time. Yeah.
You're not the
Great
first
work.
leader that's talked about COVID either, right, Don? We've had a couple talk
Yeah.
about that. So what we're finding, I think, is that COVID was such a pivotal moment for business and leaders, and for a variety of different reasons. But that, I appreciate it was a global pandemic and it affected everybody in different ways. But it's becoming a real kind of point in time, isn't it? Of when, wow, that's when that happened. That's when this happened. And the other thing we commented on is it feels like yesterday, but it was like nearly 6 years ago. How has it been 6 years?
Terrifying.
So let's change the dynamic a bit. Let's go into our feature that we call the Woking Audit, and we play a game. So Craig and I are going to list some things that leaders often give to get ahead. And you tell us if you'd keep it because it made you who you are, or you'd refund it because it wasn't worth the cost. So either keep or refund.
Okay.
Nice. I'm going to kick us off with the 5 a.m. start, or by the sounds of your conversation, the 5 a.m. start and the 10 p.m. finishes, which you were working in a global role to stay ahead. Would you keep it or refund it?
Keep it. I'm an early bird, so that suits me fine. But I've always had huge respect for people all around the world and all their different time zones. And if it enables you to connect with these people, then absolutely keep it.
Moving your life to a new city for a promotion.
Very real, actually. Okay, I only went from north to south, still in the UK, but still, it was, I'm sorry, Scotland to England. I'd keep it because I was really fortunate. We landed somewhere that we love. So yeah, keep it all along. You don't know what you don't know.
Nice.
Great.
Love that. And then another one for me is filtering your personality or toning it down for the boardroom. I know we've talked a bit about this already today, but would you keep it or would you refund it?
I'd say refund. I guess the thinking or logic there in my mind is that, firstly, I don't think I've ever really toned it down. I did find myself latterly probably stifling a little bit of my extrovert. Actually, which probably led me to realize I'm an ambivert, not a proper extrovert, as everybody assumes I am. So yeah, when that narcissistic leader was in the room, then I was absolutely stifling myself down. So refund that big time.
Nice.
Yeah, big stuff there. And working through that family holiday because only you can do the task.
So I'm not pig-headed enough to think it's only me that can do the task. However, one of my core strengths is responsibility. And if I've jumped into something and I really see myself responsible for it, then genuinely I'll see it all the way through. So if you can work with intent on a specific topic, because getting up and saying, yeah, I'll just do 2 hours at my computer, that doesn't work. You don't see the rest of the day. But if you can be very intentional about what it is, then yeah, I would keep it.
Yeah.
It's so funny, right? Because Dawn and I, we've done this now with 4 different leaders. We've had different results, but Dawn and I always kind of come in this camp as well because we do that as well, right? And we always used to blame the fact is because it's our business, right? So therefore, but actually we've come to the conclusion, Dawn, haven't we? It's more about passion than it is about anything else. If you're passionate about something or you're involved in something that you really want to be successful, none of that really matters.
Why
because
not?
it's yeah, exactly.
And the emails are much better sat on a sunbed with a margarita anyway.
Yeah, just put them all in the draft box first, though, Dawn, just to be sure.
And another thing.
I know, while I'm at it.
Love it.
So let's think about how we can support other generations. And if you were saying some advice, Lesley, to young women listening who are being told that they have to give it all up to be a leader, what's the one thing they should refuse to give up, no matter how big the gain is?
Am I only allowed one?
Go for it.
It's a hard one. I think, I guess, remain true to yourself and get to be comfortable in your own skin. And I mean get to be, because you don't know when you are until you're truly there. Learn to let things go. Don't dwell on things. Just, you know what? Hey, que sera, sera, turn around, get away from it. Don't question yourself. Stop worrying. It's wasted energy. Learn to sleep well. puts yourself to sleep, because if you can't sleep, I mean, I'm lucky over all my travel over the years, I've just slept anywhere. But think about a sleep bank. You need the sleep bank that needs to be topped up.
Okay, and then thinking about that give to gain and that giving back, we obviously first met you way back when you attended one of our flagship leadership development programs. Obviously, from our perspective, seeing you and others invest that give for your organization at the time was a huge gain for the project and the program of work that we were doing. How was the program for you? What's your feedback on that kind of overall leadership development?
It'd be really awkward if I didn't say this, wouldn't it? But I do mean this genuinely. It was the single best program we've ever done. We decided, when we were talking about this on the board, we decided we'd allow ourselves to do it in our own teams instead of a UK board, which I think worked tremendously well, because I had a team where we were very open, we were very transparent, but there was always something going on with people in the background, and anything we could do to make them and us become stronger together is a huge benefit for me. So at that time particularly, there was a couple of the colleagues in the team who were really, they had more going on in their personal life than anybody else in that room would have known, but it enabled them to step into a place where they learned they were just another person there, instead of having all the woes of what they had in their home lives. And it was just a very special moment in time. But we've always had I think going back to the COVID period again, we've always had a very strong understanding of what makes people tick and what brings people to the party. But you cannot underestimate the value of what you don't know. And when you go through that learning and you understand and you appreciate that, and I still think about a lot of these things, Dawn, I still come back to them in my own current world, where you think about how people see things differently, how they've got that different lens on every day. And it's okay for me to say I choose to get up this morning and be a crazy female in the world of logistics and supply chain, but not everybody has that ability, not everybody has that passion, not everybody can see that either. So it was an amazing learning to go through, but better because I did it with my team.
And the teams were so open to doing things differently. I think that was a big impact takeaway for me and us. Craig, you'd probably agree, that we felt that there was a real appetite to do things differently. And when we're faced with a leadership team who are prepared to do that, and the impact it had since, makes it all the more worthwhile.
It's really interesting. We still get lots of, from that program that you were on, we still get lots of nods and mentions and notifications from people saying, oh, we've just done this and we remember this from the training. And, we still get loads of feedback from that development program. And I think particularly for your sector at the time, it was a kind of, the organization wanted to make a shift. It is a male dominated environment, whether we like it or not. And that kind of shift for the organization made at the time was huge, right? It was a big investment for them. They wanted to be quite deliberate in their shift. But actually the amount of people throughout that program, I think it was like 150 leaders that went through the program overall. And the amount of people that kind of said to us at the end or during, like, wow, like this is not what we were expected to come on. We were thinking it was going to be something very, very different. And the amount of feedback that we got from people just saying that felt really powerful, and it was a big shift. And for the first time, they could understand what we were trying to achieve and what the organization was going in that direction. So we certainly saw the impact, and we still keep getting those notifications today. So
I think we saw a lot of what you now play through in the podcast series. So when the podcast came about, that was like, wow, this is the lady I was talking about. I forwarded it on to so many. Sorry, Craig, I didn't know you at the time, but I forwarded it on to so many people because it really brought to life that it was okay still to just be a regular person and still go through life in the right way. It wasn't that anybody was wrong. It was just about appreciating that. So it gives us a lot of strength, definitely.
I have so many people who contact me to go, Lesley Stairs. Love you. Thank you.
Forever an advocate.
Oh,
Right.
bless you.
Oh, well, listen, thank you. It was, and for the compliments and for the recommendations. We always appreciate it. But we are coming towards the end of our time with you today. So before we do, we have we've ended all of this mini series with what we call the quickfire round. So we're going to ask you 4 quickfire questions. No time to prep. You just got to give us your answer straight from the hip. And Dawn's going to kick us off with the first one.
So the first one is the undo button. If you could ungive one piece of advice, what would it be?
That you need to know what you're doing when you set out in your workplace, so that you need to have a plan.
Nice.
Hang on tight. You know what? The roller coasters are the best part of it all.
That's absolutely.
And staying on the theme of advice then, what piece of standard advice would you say is actually just a load of rubbish? Don't listen to it.
This is probably not the advice that would be given now, but given back in probably 2 decades ago, where it was perceived that to be a female leader, you had to be more like a male leader. And you found people sort of modeling themselves. What utter rubbish. Just be yourself. That balance is what brings a nice work ethic.
Definitely a theme from this mini-series for sure.
And we could talk for an hour on that.
Easily.
Yeah, definitely.
So the gain, what's something you gained from a failure that you now wouldn't trade for a success?
Hiring the wrong person, because I gave in to pressure from one of my peers on the board who just wanted to go and win particular business for his particular business unit. And this person could bring in a little back book and they were going to win all sorts of business. Yeah, I knew it wouldn't have worked out. Anyway, that person was a female. I'm a female. We had a fairly decent conversation and we parted ways quite quickly in a nice manner. So yeah, just don't follow anybody else's ideas.
Yeah,
nice.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then the final one for us to ask you, your leadership style needs a walk-on song. What's playing?
Okay, I have to confess, I had a feeling you might ask this. So I did ask a couple of my trusted colleagues. I'm not going to go for what one of them suggested, which was Agadoo, because everybody would dance in the room with me. I thought that's just ridiculous. What I will go for definitely is Stronger by Kelly Clarkson. And that's particularly because of the comment is what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
She's stronger. Love that.
One of my daughter's favourites. Yeah, that's fabulous.
I think Dawn's daughter had me dancing to that one night at a party.
Because of you. Sure. She did. I've loved today. Thank you, Lesley, for joining us on You Must Be Woking podcast and for being so honest and so wonderful about the receipts of your success. You can find more about Lesley and her organisation in the show notes.
Yeah, so thanks, Lesley. It's been an absolute delight to have you on the podcast with us. But that does bring to an end our Give to Gain series aligned to International Women's Day. We hope that you've enjoyed the conversations we've had with all of our guests and it's given you the appetite to think about your own trade-offs and your own receipts for the give and the gains that you get over the course of your career, and hopefully given you some ideas about where you should be investing your time and your energy and efforts to get the best returns for that sort of stuff. So thank you for joining us.
And I just wanted to give a little plea because I have a mixed view personally on International Women's Day in that it isn't just one day a year. It's not just that date in the calendar. It's a reminder to keep pulling out those chairs, building those cultures and making this actually work for everyone.
Yeah, I'd echo that. And, I hope I play an important role as an ally for my female colleagues and certainly our guests and the people we talk to on the podcast. So if you're a male out there and you're listening to our podcast, you too have a role to play to support women. There's still a long way to go. We've made some great progress, but yeah, still lots to do and lots to go. So thanks from me. And until next time, thanks, Lesley. And it's bye from me.
Bye from me.
And a bye from me.
Thanks for watching and listening to You Must Be Woking, the podcast that cuts through the noise for all things diversity and inclusion. We pride ourselves on having the honest and sometimes tough conversations. So if you liked our discussions and content today, please hit the follow, like, and subscribe buttons. It really helps us to reach more listeners. And if you're feeling even more generous, why not leave us a review? It really is the best way for us to grow and help our content reach even more people.